So cool. Let's go through and just kind of take a look over here. So I think one of the things too is that I just want to just ask you about this is so I've been doing this since 2008. And obviously one of the biggest exam changes, and there have been some over the years, but one of the biggest ones was like January 1st. And when they basically got rid of ECE and changed it to bar, TCP, ISC, what changes did you have to go through in your review course? Basically, what updates did you have to do to basically make it like what it is today? What kind of, I'm going to go back and just like look at the image print for this exam and we build this based on that. Like, what kind of changes do you make to the course once that new blueprint came out?
Yeah. Well, first I have to give credit to Ninja Mike. So anyone who has used Ninja, they know of Ninja Mike, and he's amazing. He does all of our tutoring. I think he's the only top 5 review instructor that teaches all 6 subjects.
Wow.
And yeah, super good dude. So we got together. We were probably a little late to the game. I'm naturally a procrastinator. I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do that. I think I'll just ignore it. So we started on it, I think June, May or June of 2023. And thankfully with the new exam, so with exam changes, you have structural changes, and then you also have like a major pronouncement that they're like the revenue recognition standard that came out several years ago. That was
Sure.
a big one. All of our revenue questions had to be rewritten. That was a big one. TCJA in 2017 was a big one for tax. Thankfully, with the 2024 changes, we didn't really have that. And so what we had to do was go through, okay, BEC is going away. What parts of BEC are going to audit? What parts are going to bar? What parts are going to ISC? So it was really a reshuffling of the content. Now for ISC and TCP, so like for TCP, there's obviously some regulation questions that transferred over, but there's some concepts that are tested in TCP that are more advanced tax questions that were not within the scope of the CPA exam previously. And then we also didn't have, so every year the AICPA releases the released questions to the providers. We didn't have AICPA released questions for ISC and TCP to use as a guide, especially for for ISC. So we had to, okay, like we basically had to write them from scratch. And then you're kind of holding your breath as the results come out, like,
Sure.
oh no. And there's really a reshuffling of the content. And, we thankfully, most of our students were gracious. Like, I think that's one of the cool things is that people realize that we are trying to help them pass the CPA exam without like breaking the bank or they have to take out a loan. And so I think people are more gracious towards us. So like, hey, you have this listed in this, like, you have this listed in reg. I think it's actually a better section, better for TCP, or hey, you have this in TCP. I think this is in reg. Actually, reg and TCP was the biggest when we were trying to correct the content.
Right. The other thing I meant to ask you was, I think students make a mistake of looking at, oh, TCP has a 70% pass. I should take TCP. But what they don't realize is that those who've been working in tax, I don't know what your experience has been this, Jeff, but I've had students working in tax, doing individual business returns for several years. They're the ones who have that practical experience, really good experience of going into TCP. And they're saying this is like totally easy because I've been doing this professionally. If you were to kind of say, and my advice for most students is that if you're directly graduating from school, is you're much better off taking just the business analysis report. It's much more general as opposed to like TCP or ISC. What are your thoughts on that advice? Is that consistent with what you've seen, or am I giving bad advice to my students?
Well, I'm not going to say that you're giving that advice. My personal view is that, like I said earlier, pass the exam and then go on and be an expert in whatever, because
Sure.
when you're a licensed CPA, you are held to a standard. You must be a competent professional, and the bar is pretty high. And so you have to go be an expert in whatever you're holding yourself out as, whatever area you're serving clients in. And so, what is bar? It's the areas of FAR and BEC that we all hated. It's the more higher level governmental accounting concepts. It's financial analysis. It's cost accounting. And so it doesn't shock me that bar has a 40s pass rate. And so what is TCP? It's tax without business law. So business law brings down reg scores, I believe, but reg still has a 50 or 60% pass rate. And so it makes sense to me that TCP is higher because your tax is tax. And so it doesn't have that weight of business law. And so I recommend use the F.A.R.T, FAR, auditing, regulation, TCP.
Okay. Wow. That's cool. Hey,
That's
man, totally like, look, I mean, I think I'm kind of scared of tax just because it's like, I think it goes back to when I was an undergraduate student and I just didn't understand until later with more experience. And then also just when I'm talking to students, oh, okay, like, and the ones that I've seen pass it are more of like working in the field for so long. And that's why I'm kind of more afraid to recommend it to students. But no, I mean, by the way, have you seen it was done like ISC or like, how's that one? And what's that passage rate?
so in 2024, the exams with the 3 highest pass rates were regulation, which is still part of core,
Right.
ISC, and TCP.
Wow.
And there's two schools of thought. With you recommending bar, that's probably the best path for someone who wants to take the CPA exam and come out as a better accountant, a better CPA. There's a strong case to be made for that. For someone who just wants to get the exam over with and take what I would consider the path of least resistance, I would say take TCP. So it's 2 ways of looking at it. If I were taking the exam today, I would take TCP.
Cool. And that's why I'm so happy we've spoken about this, because I need to rephrase my advice. This is awesome.